Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. Dr. Grant Venerable joining us here today, and we are going to dive into, well, I know a little bit about brain frequencies he spoke about. If you're new to the show, new to the conversation, don't worry, we will catch you up. Let me first have the man of the hour and our professional of the year introduce himself. Grant?
Well, here's what the professional of the year has to say.
Tell us.
I'm referring back to the name Jubal, which is mentioned in the Old Testament of the Bible.
Okay.
And Jubal was regarded as the father of music because he developed an instrument that could play two different voices at the same time. And it was really what we call a harmonica, where you'd have one, you breathe through one part of the harmonica and it makes a fluty sound, and another is like a string sound. And that's considered the earliest example of the pipe organ in Western history. And I want to Jubal because of that.
Yeah.
That organ can do two different voicings at the same time.
Yeah.
And keep them distinct as well as unified together, played in unison. And they give you something like a harmony. So I'm going to just do a little reading from volume 1 in the introduction. Specifically, Jubal describes a whole, a WHOLE, as an entity made up of three parts or three halves, as my mentor used to say. Two of the halves are kept quite separate from one another, even while they are kept joined one to the other by the third half. Well, that gives you a signal. That's really paradoxical talk. And it's nonsensical talk, but it's perfectly logical talk in a holistic universe. The third half is virtually invisible. It is called the interface. Our skin that covers our bodies is that interface between us and everything that is not us.
Okay.
Yet it joins us to everything that is not us. So that's a little bit of a paradox there. This kind of quantum whole reality is mind-boggling to the usual Western way of thinking, which views all of reality through the lens of an either-or dual consciousness. This subject-object split consciousness has been the playing field of the mind-body problem since philosopher René Descartes, born 1596, proclaimed, "I think, therefore I am." And yet Descartes was not entirely an absolute either-or dualist. Jubal symbolizes a both and unified consciousness, as do the arts and sciences. It is reminiscent of ancient Druidic, African, and Asian yin-yang pagan cultural outlooks. Jubal also points to the possibility of wandering into altered states of consciousness, including unified whole conscious. Such wanderings may occur in deep meditation, hypnotic trance, and inadvertent shifts in the body's own neurochemical balance. But shifts may occur through time crossings with art, music, and dance experience. Yoga, marathon exercising like running, swimming, walking, crystals, or the intended ingestion of natural plant substances long known to shamans in indigenous cultures like our Native American cultures, Native African cultures. These access channels to inner world wanderings are capable of shifting one's brain wave frequency from the normal reality of the awake logical, empirical, data, beta state of consciousness, which is 14 to 40 cycles per second at which the brain vibrates. And it can go to deeper states. Descartes would have been enthralled by modern neuroscience. The alpha state takes us to a little lower frequency, 7.5 to 14 hertz. Now, normally we're up to 14 to 40 hertz.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you and I are talking right now.
Okay.
But if we could go to a lower, called the alpha state, this is associated with successful closed eye meditation,
Mm-hmm.
prayer, and deep relaxation. That is the gateway to the unconscious or the subconscious mind.
Wow.
Intuition is heightened here as the brainwave frequency slows to 7.5 hertz.
Mm-hmm.
That is the theta state
Wow.
with its lower frequency range,
Mm-hmm.
4 to 7.5 hertz. Hertz means cycles per second
Yeah.
at which the brain is vibrating.
Okay.
This is associated with deep meditation, light sleep, and the REM, dream state. Now, REM
Okay.
stands for REM,
Oh, okay.
rapid eye movement. And if someone watches you while you're falling asleep, they will notice your eyelids begin to move.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you're going through the rapid eye movement dream state. This subconscious region is experienced in daily life only briefly as we pass into nightly sleep
Okay.
from alpha to theta. And while awakening from deep sleep in a still lower state called delta.
Oh.
In deepest dreamless sleep, brain waves descend below 4 cycles per second or 4 hertz
Mm-hmm.
to as low as 1/2 hertz. Here, the self enters the realm of the fully detached non-awareness of the unconscious. This is the gateway to universal mind and the collective unconscious, where healing is stimulated, as well as an ability to know things normally unknowable to the conscious intellect of the beta state. So we can go back and forth between beta, theta, delta. I have personally experienced anesthesia during outpatient procedures, only later realizing that my brain was flipping between theta and delta states as I slept. Any sense of time that I may have had collapsed as my trace awareness traveled between complete detachment and subliminally seeing my surroundings and hearing everything the surgical team was saying while they were doing surgery on me while I was in anesthesia.
Wow.
In this kind of experience, I'm close to Jubal.
Mm-hmm.
Jubal is the
Interesting.
unifying interface between separate, seemingly dissimilar realms, between the technological beta realm and the artful intuitive of the alpha, theta, and delta realms. Jubal is also the interface between everyday normal moments and transcendent spiritual experience, between that which is fragmented and compartmentalized and that which is unified, between the visible, secular, and the invisible, divine.
Oh.
And between the empirical, scientific, and the hidden, sacred. So those you see, there's Jubal is saying, okay, there's 2 states, folks, out there. One is very sensible to our physical senses, and the other is non-sensible to whatever we call intuition or our spiritual senses. Now we get to, this is truly an appropriate function for Jubal, the algebraic entity given cultural Jubal's important role in Old Testament tradition as the father of art and all who played stringed instruments as the harp and the flute. As such, Jubal provides a dynamic interface enabling the harp and the flute to be played together at the same time. That's what the pipe organ does. But the big pipe organs can play hundreds of instruments together at the same time. Now, what does all this mean? That is the whole principle underlying my instrument of choice, the modern pipe organ, whose earliest version would be called a harmonica today. It enables the simultaneous playing together of at least two separate, very distinct types of musical sounds. This is the entire principle underlying life, L-I-F-E, life, in which the physical self is kept carefully separate from, even while exquisitely joined to, everything that is not physical self. Now just hold on to that for a moment.
All right.
Physical with not physical. Now we have a few useful tools, both vocabulary and meta-language, for engaging the ideas and experiences in my memoir, particularly in this volume. We're now ready to discuss some crucial matters faced by all humans as stewards of planet Earth. But first, a brief visit to my father's venerable ancestors, and they're in the next chapter. If my mother's Scot heritage bequeathed me a natural vitality of heart, mind, chakras, and a hunger for higher education, which is my father's venerable heritage, it brought me the gift of a hunger to teach. Both intentions could only succeed through well-tuned heart and throat chakra connections. So here's the heart chakra, love and feeling. Here's the throat chakra, the chakra of the intellect and the intuition. And they work together, heart with throat. Now, having said all of that, I think we can now talk about a few things. I want to go back to the prequel to my memoir. And that prequel, again, comes back to Jubal. At the start of my memoir, it says, this memoir describes a 3-century exodus of the author's ancestors from a mid-1660s colonial past into 21st century America. Importantly, it portrays the power of the double shadow, a force that can create or destroy. Jubal, the forebear of music and a descendant of Cain in ancient Hebraic tradition, is linked to this force. That's why I'm making so much out of Jubal and the chakras and the brainwave frequencies. So Jubal is linked to this double shadow. The shadow joins together the mind's unifying motif of fides, F-I-D-E-S, trust and fidelity, and the human group memory with its mirror image, complementary flip side, the ever-present divisive phobos, which we see more often in fear and envy situations, a fear and envy motif of tribal pecking order. This is a circumstance that has agitated and shaped human existence since Eden. The shadow motif is central to art, love, relationship, philosophy, education, religion, health, and of course, music, from philharmonic to jazz. It is also central to the mathematical sciences and technology. The double shadow is implicated in humankind's either or, us against them, labeling urges like cultural divide, woke, race, gender, and other hyperbolic crap. Happily, a universal both and them are us spirit is stirring in the land. Now, I'm holding up my cup in salute to our listeners and viewers, because this cup contains chocolate milk. Actually, it's chocolate almond milk. And what it does,
I got some milk in my coffee.
as I sip, it brings memories of my past.
Yeah.
But it also brings memories of a future that has not occurred yet. Now, if that sounds like nonsense, you're correct. It is nonsense, but it's beautiful nonsense.
Wow.
When I drink this chocolate milk, it takes me smack dab from this desert, or I'm sitting looking out the window at these beautiful desert mountains, this Mojave desert setting. And it connects me to what's across, to the west of here, the mountains that separate where I am in the high desert from the Los Angeles, Southern California, San Diego basin. But it also connects me to my childhood way over there in Los Angeles, 140 to 150 miles from where I now sit. Now, what was going on at that house that I grew up in when I was like 5 years old? I moved into that house when I was 3 years old. But there were times when my mother wanted to give her 3 little children a treat. And one of our favorite treats was chocolate milk. So when I drink chocolate milk nowadays, I think of all of those precious memories of my mother and my father and the neighborhood in which we live. Now, that's a pretty interesting phenomenon, but everyone has it in their own lives.
Yeah.
There's something they'll go to listen to a piece of music. It'll take them back to past time. When they eat a certain food, they put on certain clothes. It has certain colors. The cars they sit in have certain colors, but it takes them back to a time that gives them happy memories.
Wow.
Now, the whole first part of this goes back to a longer ago time. And I wrote this when I lived in Georgia.
Yeah.
And I described this several weeks ago about the Garden of Eden. It's a mythological experience. It doesn't mean it was factually true, although many people in their religions, including in my family, take it as true, as factual. And that's okay, because it brings alive certain memories that they have that are needed to be brought alive. But this story that I wrote takes place in the Deep South, where I used to live, and had I not lived there, I would not have understood a lot of the strange paradoxes going on in today's world. And so that's what it deals with, is the founders of Eden are sitting there on the porch of Eden, around a table on the porch. And I gave them names that we're familiar with from our Judeo-Christian heritage, like Elohim, Jehovah, James, and John. And there they are, as we look in on them, They're seated on the great porch of the Garden of Eden in
Aw.
quiet reflection while watching events unfold on
Yeah.
distant Earth after what we call the fall of man and the abrupt departure of Adam and Eve from Eden's paradise.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a lot of traditional stories from
Yeah.
different religious traditions about the meaning of that. And I have my own that I want to share some of now. The Eden Quartet, it's like they're watching
Yeah.
television. Um, Now, I hope you can still see me because there you are.
Yeah.
There you are. I've got to get you back here.
Gotcha.
Okay. This can get tricky sometimes.
Hmm.
I'm just trying to get back to the Zoom.
All right. I see you perfectly.
Do you see me and you can
Yep.
hear me?
I see you
Okay.
and hear you. Yeah.
Well, let me go forward with what I hold on, we'll get there. Okay. Well, the Eden Quartet noted many things concerning humankind's difficult transition, including heroic projects for survival and procreation of progeny. They note humanity's triumphs and civilized state, development of agriculture, science, the civilized state, law, and government. Can you still see me there?
Yes. Go ahead. You're there.
You can see me. Okay. They note humankind's foolish, endless wars for treasure and empire, and especially in the handling of any and all relationships based on race, class, and sexual labels, and life's other dualistic categories of the ego.
Okay.
And, well, they're labels.
Mm-hmm.
They're real. At least they seem real to us because we use them all the time. The mythical quartet is fascinated by the development after the fall in Eden over gobs of millennial time through the 21st century CE, where we are today. They note successes and failures in conjugal and non-traditional group, cultural, and corporate alignments. Among untold legions of mortals,
Okay.
some open to the narrative concerning atonement, but others not.
Okay.
The Eden Quartet sees the intersections between mortals and their predictable responses to unpredictable, what we call acts of God, and how people have responded across areas of existence. Especially fascinating to the quartet are human efforts providing for their survival needs. We've been doing that ever since. Their development of poly and monotheistic religions as a template for shaping secular societies, politics, charities, and morality.
Mm-hmm.
And how achieving a modicum of power and control
Yep.
in their lives and how their creation of unnecessary complexity resulted in misery and pleasures around nearly everything mortals touch.
Oh, wow.
Unseemly entertainments and technologies were a hoped for panacea to
Yeah.
address the most vexing challenges. Even they led unwittingly to far greater complexity and finally chaos.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, in response, mortals depend upon not themselves, but rulers, and secular heroes to save them, while blissfully ignoring how social media, among other distractions, have led to mental health issues, physical ills,
Yeah.
and disease. Attempts to address challenges posed by increasing complexities resulted in unseemly behaviors and legislative actions, culminating in even more complexity and misery, especially in education and social welfare.
Mm-hmm.
This outcome was anticipated by the insights of 19th century physicist Ludwig Boltzmann and his equation for predicting entropy. Now, entropy is a big scientific word meaning chaos, basically chaos. Then came the mythical quartet's observation of a promising, if strange, little app called artificial intelligence, or simply AI. In the early 21st century, AI promised both revolution and redemption. But every revolution brings the seeds of destruction as well, thus revealing that double shadow in the dual human experience. And that was the rub, the surprise appearance of dualism in Adam and Eve's new awareness of their nakedness. And this alerted the Eden Quartet that they had eaten of the so-called forbidden fruit, a certain tree of knowledge, a sure sign of algebraic group theory and life's thorny dualisms of good, evil, light, dark, female, male, and life, death, while their ejection from Eden. Now let's see if that was cut off somewhere. Where is this?
Very good.
Oh, I know.
And just so everyone's aware, Dr. Grant Venerable joining us here live today. Continue.
Okay, what? I want to talk about how we got to this point in the conversation with these labels.
Okay.
And I think the first label I want to tackle is something everybody wonders about. And that's the label of race. R-A-C-E.
Yep.
And the first thing I'm going to do is going to explode it. I'm going to blow it up.
Ooh.
Because it only exists in the human intellect.
Yep.
The only way it exists in the outside world is in the word humanity. And in the word humanity, we're reminded that there's only one race.
Yeah.
And it's called the human race.
Yeah.
We get so many God-forsaken races.
Yeah.
What does that mean? It means that people settle into a comfortable habit wherever they originated in the different geographies of the world to speak of people that were not of their tribe.
Yes.
And they would occasionally visit tribes, maybe 20 miles away. Now we're going way back like 250,000 years. And they would see people of other tribes. And those tribes had names. So if you go back to the Judean Israel area that's been there for thousands of years, there were hundreds of tribes around there. And they had different names. What happened is by long-term usage, it kind of lapsed into a comfort zone where instead of tribe, they would just say, the races of the English, the race of the Norwegians, the race of the Nigerians, the race of the Japanese.
Yeah.
And it was okay because people understood what they meant. And all it meant was people that lived over yonder instead of right with you. And it was just a quick, easy way to refer to them. And that worked until things happen in the world.
Yeah.
And technologies develop. Technologies based on an original Greek word for art. the art and the skill of doing something.
Mm-hmm.
And as with what the Eden founders were seeing, is that where people were gravitating toward other intentionalities
Yep.
than just surviving.
Mm-hmm.
They'd say, hey, that group over there, tribe B, they've got some things we can use.
Yep.
So we run short of food. Let's go over and get some of their food. And if they don't give it to us, let's figure out some things we can develop to overwhelm them so we can take their food.
Oh.
And if they follow us and bother us and try to get their food back, we can protect our food that we got from them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you multiply that over the ages up to this paradoxical name called civilization, in which we develop so-called civilized behavior that was based on, guess what?
Yep.
Food. How
Really?
to get food.
Wow.
How to feed ourselves.
Oh my goodness.
How to survive when the weather's bad. How to shelter ourselves. All these things we had to learn how to do. And in learning how to do it, we developed what we call civilized society. And we developed ways of governing our own tribe, our own civilized tribe.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what built up. Well, things got really complicated in time. Once we developed like chariots, we developed sailing vessels.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the Mediterranean, European and North African nations developed sailing ships. They developed the compass. They developed gunpowder. They developed things that they could use to take themselves somewhere to trade with somebody, their goods for your goods.
Mm-hmm.
And time passed, and the thing we traded also changed. We started trading in people in certain parts of the world. People in that part looked a certain way, and they looked different from us who had the sailing vessels in the European region. So we learned about people. We tried to sail down what we call the coast of Africa. But that was a treacherous coast. That was difficult to do. It took nearly until the time of the 1400s when the Portuguese befriended some of the people who lived in those coastal regions and figured out how to get in there and trade, do some commerce. Well, as things developed, trade developed in terms of needing things in the Americas. This new world was learning how to grow things like cotton and tobacco and sugar cane and things that they could trade with European countries. And then there would be trade to African nations. And the trade shifted to people.
Mm-hmm.
They said, well, come on, let's get some of these people to come back to the New World.
Yeah.
But they were happy. They had a home. So they didn't want to come. So we said, well, let's just take them. We'll just take them. We'll put them on the ships. Might take us a few months to get over there, but we did that.
Yeah.
That shifted the whole idea of race.
Wow. Yeah.
To a definition based upon what you see with your physical senses.
Yeah.
And it turns out those folks in Africa and other parts of the world tended to have darker skin complexions. And somebody said, hey, that's a great categorizing basis.
Yeah.
So let's say, okay, so we'll take these over in Africa. They're the darkest ones we've ever seen across the world.
Yeah.
So let us justify a reason for taking them.
Yeah.
Because you think, well, you don't want anyone taking us, so we assume they don't want anyone taking them. So we turn to our religions to give us the basis for doing this.
Wow.
And say, well, they're not part of our religion, and they're not Jewish or Christian, they're not this or that. So we'll make up reasons. And so one of the reasons is that they're not of our religion, and they're not a lot of what we are. And then we develop this totem pole, as some anthropologists have called it, and that's a totem pole of skill and intelligence. And so we'll just declare, well, those who have the darkest skin have the lowest intelligence. If you don't believe me, go read the history of anthropology. That's where it all is. That's why that's become such a controversial issue today.
Oh, wow.
Because those of our nations that want to keep that system of subjugating other people based upon their skin color, that's what we have to do. And we'll call that a race. But it's not a race, because you have Nelson Mandela down in South Africa. He could be the same race as anybody up in Sweden based upon certain physiological characteristics. And there's certain characteristics of Swedes that are identical to biochemical markers we see in Zulus in South Africa and other tribal people down there. So what do you use for race as a signal marker? Well, you make up one and just say, okay, this is it. We're not going to worry about biochemistry and all that. So that's what we're stuck with today. And it has plagued us ever since. And so as we try to do things to undo all of that error and mistake, it's led to controversy and struggles in who we elect to lead us and all of that. So that's where what kind of questions, Jill, does that raise for you and our listeners?
Well, I mean, about skin color, right? I mean, it's such, discrimination has existed for so many years, but I just want to double check what you said. So you were telling me back in the records in the book in anthropology and these writings, it was actually documented that people with darker skin were less intelligent. Did I miss that?
Yes.
Okay. And that was from who specifically?
That started with a bunch of intelligent guys who were the founders of anthropology. And
were they all Caucasian men?
They're what we call Caucasian, yes. And they were invited by the rulers of their countries. Come on, let's look at some ways we can justify having races and then taking different races to carry out certain functions. Now, that's just come to light in a big way in the last week. That was the big news at one of the big political conferences. I think it was in Tennessee. One of our senators from Missouri, that's one of my ancestral states, talked about that very openly, that America is exceptional because there's only one race that's really qualified to do anything of use. And that race is very light-skinned. So we don't have anything to do with people of other races. It's hard to believe. There it is.
Yeah.
And my family is an example of people who are diverse group of people. And my father was a good example of that when, here he got admitted to Caltech 96 years ago. No, he was admitted 96 years ago.
Yeah.
And he was admitted because they didn't have things today that are called DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, which have been called upon to help us admit qualified students into universities. But here was my dad. They had to admit him because he did among the best of the applicants on the exam, the entrance exam in mathematics So he graduated because he was so darn smart.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of blew apart all of the belief systems of people that were attaching
Amazing.
skin color to intelligence. Otherwise, how do they explain this guy,
Yeah.
Grant Venerable Sr.? They can't. So they
Aw.
pretend that it's not true or he never happened or
Oh,
never
that's
existed.
horrible.
So I think that's kind of like the grand conclusion of put out there as a homework for listener who listen, read carefully, go look at the names, just Google, enter anthropologist, and it'll tell you all of the parties that started the system. And some are some of the most famous people we still know. Even Darwin made his contribution to that dark legacy. There's too many names for me to really just recall immediately, but they're all online.
Yeah.
And they were the greatest, most respected people of their day.
Mm.
And today we have other people that have shown us new knowledge, saying that we now have to depart from that old knowledge, which wasn't true.
Yeah. Wow.
And, so where does that leave us now? We're about, I think, Jill, you have to be the one to represent the listeners and say, you already asked a few questions here. How do we know? Who are they? And so I'm up here in the desert to help spread that word through my memoir, because they're all listed in there.
And tell us about the memoir for those that don't know yet,
The
Grant.
memoir is entitled Footprints in the Chaotic Unknown, which I didn't name until I was done with the memoir. It had a whole different title when I started back in 2011. But when I saw the things it was actually predicting from the experiences of my ancestors, who come from at least 3 or 4 continents. They come from the continent of Africa. Mm-hmm. Another half of them come from the continent of Europe. And another little significant piece came from the Cherokee people in this country. Yeah. And then there's a few miscellaneous people. But that's what happens when you have this diverse kind of heritage. Those genes operate together in new and different ways and bring new forms of genius and intelligence, which have been reflected in my ancestors of all of what people refer to as racial groups. And there is a certain descendant of the European side in my family who didn't graduate from Caltech, but he works for Caltech as one of the top data engineers in the world on the James C. Watt telescope data on astronomy. But his ancestors come from the same place and the same family that my African ancestors come from, which is real, paradoxical, and back to Jubal. The best things come from diversity.
Yeah. How do you feel society as a whole now in 2025 is doing with diversity? In your... Go ahead.
It's going to take a little longer, but it's going in the right direction. I mean, in the direction that is going to correct itself. And that's how I keep despair aside, because I'm not despairing. I'm not one of those who despairs, we're going in the wrong direction. We're not. We're going through what any complex system goes through when it self-corrects. And when that correction, it's already happening. Mm-hmm. And you see it in places like, go into the Afro-American Museum in Washington, D.C., that some people are now trying to dismantle. It's exhibits on the truth of history. And look who goes in there. Mm-hmm. I went in there last April. And the hours it's open, it's mainly people who visually you would identify as African American heritage people.
Yeah.
But as you get into early afternoon, it becomes much more predominantly people of European heritage in appearance.
Yep.
That's not published in the news media. You don't read about that in the
Yeah.
papers, but it's happening.
Oh my goodness.
And you have to be in the right places to see it happening.
Yeah. Whew. Well, I'm
So,
glad there's been progress made, and in these memoirs, I want people to know more. That don't know who Grant is, because in the beginning we didn't really introduce you. So if you don't know, hopefully by now you've Googled him, and he's very modest about his accomplishments and his work. Speaks highly of his father, and really, we should be speaking very highly of you and all of your accomplishments too. So clearly, it's genetics, and it runs in the family. Your dad's intelligence, right?
certainly was.
Yeah.
And he trained his kids to use their intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And so I used mine, my sister and brother used theirs, and their descendants are using theirs.
Mm-hmm. Well, we still have more time together. What else did you want to make sure we cover for today?
What, I read just a little review on Robert Reich's latest book called Coming Up Short. Well, it's a play on words, which is really clever. Robert Reich was blessed as a shorter than average American male. He's a professor at UC Berkeley in economics. He's I think one of the smartest people in the world.
Yeah.
But he's referring to coming up short in making sure that our democracy survives. And in his fears, as many academics fear, we're coming up short in saving our democracy and not looking in the right places or listening to the right people. And I don't mean right politically. If you don't know it, right politically means it came from the French Assembly, the French General Assembly in the 1700s. The more conservative people were on the right side of the chamber, and the more liberal people were on the left side of the chamber. That's all that means. But the left side was more interested in the rights of the common people to make sure they survived. The right side was more interested in the rights of the property classes and the wealthy classes. So we have the same divisions, but they have different justifications for their methods today. And that's what I could say right now. But look at Reich's book also, Reich. So I'm also saying, look at Venerable's book. They're saying basically the same thing, but in different ways, from different points of view. Mine is from the point of view of the natural sciences and mathematics, how we can use that to predict the human social future.
Wow. Oh, well, Grant, you've helped so many, and you continue to do so, and you're nonstop with this. And I love that you are just a workaholic, right? Your whole life you dedicate to helping others. And clearly, with all your knowledge, I mean, what other message did you want to get out today to your audience?
What? Say that again, Jill. I forgot to put in my hearing aids.
Well, I said, what about your the rest, of our listeners today? With all your knowledge, is there anything else in particular that you want to make sure we cover for today?
What I would say is that my interests have been science, mathematics, anthropology, religion, philosophy, psychology, mythology, but mainly psychology, science, mathematics, and religion, because those are the big drivers of what happens in this civilized world.
And if anyone out there obviously has any questions, we still have time for that. The lines have been open, 631-307-4031, 631-307-4031. What is next on your journey, Grant?
Oh, what's next is to get all my boxes unpacked so I can organize, because I work out of an organized system. That's the subject of a previous book called Managing in a 5-Dimension Economy, charting, using the Venn matrix to chart the American future, something like that. But it's managing in a 5-dimension economy. And that's the theory I developed after years of teaching chemistry that applies to human social systems. And it charts out what happens when systems evolve to higher complexity. Well, what they do is they have homeostatic mechanisms to pull them back from their complexity, because if they get too complex, they collapse.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening to us today. And that's why Reich wrote his book, Coming Up Short. But I wrote mine to say how we can come back to greater intelligence, simplicity. And one is, we just can't invent everything we want to use just because it's inventable. And that's what Silicon Valley did. What's going to make us a lot of money? Because so now we'll have a computer that fries our eggs and cooks everything and cleans our house for us. Just because we can do it doesn't mean we ought to do it, because it may destroy us or impede us anyway. And the same things happens in government. And of course, politics is supposed to respond to human need and to make it possible for humans to live productive and healthy lives. And that's what the preamble to our Constitution says is the purpose of the Constitution. So the legislators have to pull back, whether they're on the right or the left side, of trying to solve every problem with new legislation. And the Supreme Court needs to start minding its own business from getting into all that stuff of injecting its opinion in to its decisions. And then there's one more branch. Well, the executive, obviously, it does apply to the executive, but that's all my book is really saying. Keep it simple, stupid, or keep it simple, you intelligent, beautiful creatures.
Yeah.
Because we are intelligent and we can be beautiful with our intelligence. It doesn't mean don't try to solve your problems. It just says don't be complex about it.
Yeah.
We've got plastics all over the oceans now.
So true.
And it's killing the fish.
Yeah.
We eat salmon. It's full of plastic. So my friends in economics are saying, come on, people, let's use our intelligence.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. How can we contact you? Would you mind sharing all forms?
Grant D. Venerable, PhD, all lower caps, .com. And that gives my email, VENTWO at AOL.com.
Perfect. And in closing today, I want to thank you for always being here and making conversation that makes us really think and, to acknowledge your father, all he went through and, the path he led, back then is pretty impressive, all his accomplishments and how he continued his success and didn't get hindered by anyone. So thank you. And that's just...
Oh, you're welcome.
No, I have
You're
a
welcome,
family member
Jill.
who dealt with a lot of discrimination and recently, and it makes me so sad. And to know that, you worked so hard and done so much. And thank you so much for that, Grant.
Welcome. Well, thank you, Jill.
You have a fantastic day. Always a pleasure having you. And again, congrats on being our professional of the year. We will see you again next week, I think, right?
Okay.
Same place, same time?
That's what I'm looking forward to. Okay.
Sounds good, Grant. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
All right.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hi, this is Terry Crews, actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama. I know all kinds of drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids. There's the bad kind like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply STOP to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.